so working with Azure and working with integrations, and as much years that you have been working with, do you have any memorable mistakes that you can share with the community for us to both know, but also, of course, to learn about some mistake?
Mhm. Well, a bigger mistake is when you build an integration supporting a process and going along with that process, that's a pretty complex one.
Mm,
You end up with one big logic app similar to what you could have done with BizTalk back in the day, building an orchestration
mm,
that would be like several pages long, right? And that's not correct.
mm,
So because you're so much focused in solving that problem or getting that complex thing running, you basically tend to shortcut it by putting everything in that one single
mm,
logic app, which is not smart at all because it
mm,
becomes hard to debug, etc.
mm,
So, and then you start to realize that you may have to zoom out and maybe think about cutting up your process or your workload in smaller pieces, right? And I think, hey, maybe I should do some call outs to different logic app because you can call one logic app, kind of call another one, right?
mhm.
And then just defragment it just to make it a little bit more less bulky, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you're in the zone and you're like, I need to solve it, and deploy, and then once you got it running, but then you look like, oh, I've really created a monster. Sometimes that's the mistake. Well, and what you learn from the mistake is sometimes you need to step back and look at the problem and start to understand what the problem or process is, and maybe think about, hey, maybe I should cut it up in different little parts.
Mm,
And we did that eventually, and then our process got bigger, and it was easy to debug, and then it was also easier to maintain in the end. You do create some dependencies because you got your master logic app and all those dependent logic apps, so you have to deploy the dependent logic apps first before you deploy the big one. Otherwise, the big one will say, "Hey, I can't find the little ones."
mhm.
Mm.
You probably know what I mean. So
Yeah, we know, but still, it's I know but
mm,
I remember when I was I mean developing logic apps, and that question also to like
yeah,
break up the integrations to
yeah,
smaller pieces. But it was also quite hard when you talk with your colleague or someone else that
yeah,
Mm.
where to cut, where should what
yeah.
is a big, what is an okay piece?
Oh, I totally agree because I think in the end, we had a good setup, but because we're so hung up in solving that process, and there was, of course, time pressure, and then before you know it, you're on that train, and then you forget about taking a step back and then think about, wait a minute, some of these things that in that process were just call outs like a lookup and stuff, and shouldn't put everything in that one single logic app. But hey,
Mm,
you can always make that mistake. It's no
yeah.
Yeah.
problem.
Yes, it's
Mm.
I have been getting wiser lately. I don't know, I'm getting older or wiser. Not sure about the
Mhm.
exact
Yeah.
correlation there, but it's more like I've started to pay more
Mhm.
attention to the business process before even
Yeah.
Yeah.
judging the mistake, because that's what we have been like when you're running 100 miles per
Mhm.
hour and
Yeah.
you need to fix, as you said, deploy.
Mm,
I think we need to put the foot down sometime and say, okay, wait a minute, hey, how the business process looks like,
mm,
and then start work from there.
yeah.
Yeah, partially the mistake was also made because the process wasn't entirely clear from the get-go. So, what we started building anyhow, and then you create a monster too. So, the
Yeah.
other thing would be really have a good vision or a good understanding of the process itself. But even the customer didn't understand that process. So,
Yeah, but that's like yeah, we've been talking about a lot in this podcast, or
mhm.
actually like in every episode we mentioned like the business value. How
Yeah,
can we as integrators actually take more consideration of the business value? Because we like technique, we like to solve problems, but
hmm
how can we also love do the business parts? Because then we have a good integration.